Bond, source of power, family, a gift, and to some, food. Hyoudou, descendant of the Belmonts, Tepes, and travelers, blood of the holy, unholy, and the unlucky. He will fight, struggle, kill, and let's be honest, curse his way through life in order to do what's right no matter what. IsseixHarem. 1. Kuo Academy. A young boy of 10 slept in his house peacefully till he was roused from his sleep hearing some animalistic noise from inside of the house, and due to his childish nature he got curious and wasn't afraid. He heard a loud growl from his parents' room and he approached it slowly. As he entered he froze as red-hot liquid hit his face, as there was a beast inside his parents' room feasting on their bodies. The creature ripped a piece of Issei's father's flesh and saw Issei. "Hello boy," he said as a raspy approaching Issei. Issei felt his voice pick up in pace as he backed into the wall as the creature approached him. "Do not worry boy, you will not suffer," the creature said as he looked at Issei licking his face. Issei was crying in fear and sadness, seeing the creature, feeling like death was about to approach him. The creature teased his prey as he cut Issei's cheek lightly, tasting his blood. "You taste delicious," he said to Issei, and soon picked up a taste in his blood. Human. Faint taste of magic, and creature, "Oh, you will be a good meal," he said, chuckling before stopping as he felt the magic grow more powerful in the child, and soon saw the shadows moved until a dark figure loomed in the shadow behind the boy. "What are you?" he said as spikes rose from the shadows and stabbed the creature. "It's not possible, Dracula," he said before he died. Issei laid against the wall in shock before blacking out. A pale transparent figure appeared the moment Issei fell unconscious. "Well, this is a bloody fucking nightmare," he said as he looked at the demon's remains and the eaten parents of the unconscious child. Guess this is about time my bloodline awoke. "Well kid, you're fucked," he said to him using some magic and cleaned Issei and removed the demon's corpse, as that was as much as he could do in his current spiritual form. "A la carte, I'm gonna fucking kill you," he said to himself as this was crap. "Sucks you're both our descendant. Kid, I wasn't kidding, you are screwed," he said sitting next to him. "Never gets easy kid, trust me, it was the same for me," he said to Issei knowing he was unconscious. "My son was a fucking moron. Trefor fucking Belmont fucks Alucard's daughter. You'll have enemies kid for fucking existing," he said to Issei. As for that, he felt guilt as his grandchild faced many hardships being from both bloodlines and knew this child would face the same. "Sleep well kid, sleep well," he said, hoping that Issei could sleep peacefully. Next day, Issei woke up in the hallway and saw blood on the floor. He crawled away in fear-filled panic. "Hey," the man said to him, scaring Issei. "It's okay kid, listen, my name is Trevor Belmont, I am your grandpa." "Yeah, let's go with that," Trevor said to him, trying to calm him down. "You're gonna be okay," he said to him. "Mom and Dad," Issei said as he cried. "Yeah, that," Trevor said to him. "You need to get out of here kid, a demon usually travels in packs and it's day you need to go," he said in a stern tone as he couldn't be nice in a state of survival. Issei just nodded, not knowing what else to do. "God, what fucking crap is this?" Trevor said as he readied himself. "Listen, call the whatever it is," he said, trying to catch up to the era as best he could. "Then get some clothes and we leave, okay?" he said to Issei, who just nodded. 1 hour later. "You okay kid?" Trevor said as it was a bad sign when kids were quiet. He got no response. "Listen, losing parents is hard," he said as his words failed him. Issei just teared up as they walked. "Listen, my parents died somewhat like yours did," Trevor said as it was the truth, but he at least could understand it. "It gets easier if you open up," he said as he felt better after he met his wife and dickhead of a best friend who later became his brother-in-law. "Are you a ghost?" Issei asked him as he couldn't touch him. "Oh, yeah," Trevor said as it was probably good to change the topic. "Your other grandparents thought it'd be funny to leave a remnant of my goddamn soul on this shithole of a world," he said to him. "Where are we going?" Issei asked him. "I'll tell you tonight," Trevor said to him. "You don't know," Issei said flatly. "I don't know yet," Trevor said to his descendant as he was certainly a card. Late at night. "You other grandparents had a real dumb sense of humor," Trevor said to him. "What do you mean?" Issei asked, not understanding. "Well, we lived in a castle and after a while when we knew we were going away," Trevor said, stopping himself from mentioning death as the kid lost his parents. "We had this castle move, always moving, going to certain places at certain times for a fraction of a second so no one can see or find it magical or otherwise," He said to him, "They used constellations to determine the time and place. See that one that is Cantes Major." He said as he personally liked the stars as did other Belmonts. "I was at least able to pick that it was funny since Alucard was a fucking mutt." He said to him, "Okay if we wait right around here we should be inside in a minute," he said to Issei. Issei felt dumb just sitting there waiting, and because he was a child he was naturally impatient, and after he blinked his eyes he soon saw they were in another place entirely. "Welcome to Castle Belmont." Trevor said to him, "Alucard wants to leave part of my soul here, then I get to claim the damn castle." He said to himself, "Come on, look around," he said to him, letting Issei giving him complete freedom of the castle. "Wow," Issei said in awe. "Bet your ass had to fix this place up." Trevor said to him as he was glad Issei liked this place as he put a lot of effort in this. "Come on, I'll show you your room, Master Sweet my friend," he said to him, and soon passed a bottle of wine and tried to grab it only for his hand to go through it. "Fuck you Alucard, you prick," he said, guessing this was his old friend's idea of a sick joke given how much Belmonts love their booze. Issei soon found a large bland empty room and fell on the bed, and his body still felt heavy remembering what had happened the previous night. He cried. Trevor was silent as Issei clearly needed time to grieve, and he was the last person that could help, and Issei needed to be left alone to have this moment to himself. 1 week later. "Okay, you've settled and you need to train. You have my blood, Belmont badass monster killers. Traveler blood from my wife, meaning you have magic. And Dracula's blood from Alucard, but between us Belmont blood is the better one of them all." Trevor said to him cockily, "We'll train weekdays. You can read on the weekends a little or a lot if you want, and we'll have you practice magic on certain days of training." He said to him, "Also you gotta learn stuff. My wife will give my soul hell wherever the fuck it is if you don't learn," he said as he guessed the techniques here were dated compared to what he saw when he left with Issei out of Kuo, but it was still advanced and magical, so he guessed he could learn something. Few days later, Trevor had to admit Issei was a wild child running and going through the training decently, having decent but limited uses of his gifts given to him by blood, as he noticed Issei could run as fast as a vampire, which was slow compared to Alucard, but for what Issei was and how many generations it's been, it was impressive. It didn't come to any surprise to him that Issei was good at fire magic, as his child and grandchild could use it with great succession thanks to his wife Saifa. He's got potential, he thought to himself. 1 year later. "Listen kid, I know this has been tough," Trevor said to him as they were in front of Issei's old house as Issei was paying respect. "But you survived, and look at you now, a Belmont," he said as Issei was working non-stop training to be a monster hunter and had mastered the Morning Star under his tutelage. "Thanks Grandpa," Issei said as he finished his prayer. "Still too hard?" Trevor asked as Issei was declared a runaway and his parents' murder was listed as a rabid animal breaking in and killing them. He had Issei sell some expensive jewels and gold, so the house was well paid for and kept and was cleaned out, not a trace of his parents' blood or remains. "Yeah," Issei said to him, "come on, time you learned to hunt," Trevor said to him as there were certain elements in this city that were magical. "Let's go," Issei said to him. 1 hour later. "You gotta be fucking kidding me, a cyclops," Trevor said to himself, seeing it was of the same breed he freed his wife from. "Avoid the gaze," Issei said, remembering what he read. Trevor was pleased as Issei found excitement reading about magical creatures, something he could respect and something he expected, as all Belmonts read the bestiary and knew it inside and out. He watched as Issei moved stealthily behind it, dropping the end piece of Morning Star, and held the handle as he went under the creature, wrapping the chain around its legs by going under it, and just as the Cyclops noticed, Issei pulled the chain, making it ignite as the beast fell forward, losing its feet, and Issei whipped Morning Star and struck it behind its head, making it burn up. Only minor wounds, he thought, as the Morning Star's power was dependent on user. "He'll grow into it," he thought to himself. 1 week later. Issei was down in the Belmont library that was made a part of the castle, going through the books of magic, looking through them as he was trying to improve upon his elemental magic. But something caught his eye and he saw the case filled with vampire skulls. It was a little unnerving, if he was being honest, since he was part vampire. Are there books on vampires, he thought to himself as he was curious to that side of his family tree, as Trevor just complained about Dracula and Alucard and often said more profanity than he usually did to describe them. A certain case had a glare in the light that caught Issei's attention, and he went over. The case was of a vampire skull, but it also had all the other bones from its original body. "Carmilla," Issei said, reading the name on the case. He opened it and picked up the skull, seeing the long canines. "Do I have teeth that big?" he thought to himself as he touched his own. "Ow," he said as he cut his finger. The blood from Issei's finger dripped down to the fang of the skull. He placed it back inside the case and left it, not noticing the skull's eye holes begin to glow. Few days later, Alucard and Dracula could turn into wolves and bats. Issei thought as he found a diary of sorts that belonged to Dracula, which marked all his abilities, which were many which Trevor hadn't seen in other vampires or even the bestiary, which he was curious as to why and guessed it was probably because of Alucard guessing it was out of respect. He began training, trying to tap into those abilities. Issei studied and trained in the library much of that day, improving his technique. As Issei trained, he didn't notice the cabinet where the bones of the vampire were now gone. "With Trevor, the fuck?" Trevor said, seeing a broken vase and claw marks on the walls. "Issei," he called out as he ran to look for him. Stairs. A pale gray figure slowly walked up the stairs of the castle. The body was female. But with how skinny and how it was mostly bones and barely flesh, one wouldn't be able to tell. She took a sniff of the air. "Blood," she said in a very raspy and as dry as sandpaper voice. "With Issei. I swear I need to get a grip on these," Issei said as he cut his hand, trying to practice with a reconstructed cross haladi, and when it was changing he cut his palm. "Issei, there's trouble," Trevor's voice said, ringing through the halls loudly. Issei was curious and went to go find his spiritual ancestor. "What the hell?" he thought to himself as he heard deep, jagged and labored breathing and looked up to the ceiling and saw the creature. "Blood," the female figure said, lunging at him. Issei moved out of the way and saw the starving creature begin to lick his blood off the carpet as some dripped off his hand. He felt bad as he knew what this creature was, as it was a vampire, but it was starved. "Issei," Trevor said, sighing in relief as he was glad he was safe. "Good you found it. Kill it," he said to him. "No," Issei said, grabbing a small decorative bowl and cut his palm over the wound he already had and let blood pour into it. "Kid, listen, I get it, I do, but you don't know this vampire, neither do I. Though I was told she was a bitch by some other assholes," Trevor said to him honestly. "Are you sure you want to take this risk?" he asked him curiously. "Trevor, she needs help," Issei said, seeing she was done with the carpet and was looking at him hungrily. He went halfway and put the bowl with his blood between them as he backed up. The creature, having enough sense and reason given her current circumstances, she slowly approached the bowl, keeping her eyes on the boy and the figure she recognized as she devoured the crimson liquid and growled in satisfaction as the blood tasted amazing. "What the hell?" Trevor said to himself, as he had seen blood-starved creatures before that relied on blood to live and survive and knew that it took much and many days needing to consume a lot of blood. But she was slowly regaining her hair and her body was filling out, or refilling as it were. "Is it his blood?" he thought, thinking about Issei's vampire and magical blood, wondering if it expedited the process. "Fan-fucking-tastic," Carmilla said as she panted as her hunger was sated. "The fuck are you?" she said, looking at Trevor. "Trevor fucking Belmont," Trevor said, sending a look to Issei. Carmilla hissed but noticed something she could see through him. "Oh my god, you're dead, this is brilliant," she said with a chuckle, and then saw Issei. "And you?" she said, looking at him. "Thank you," she said as she still knew what was happening even in her feral state and was glad he didn't try and kill her and appreciated the offering he gave her. "Castle looks good all things considered," she said to herself. "The fuck are you on about?" Trevor said to her. "That whole wild teleport shit, when this place didn't stop teleporting and shit, I was sure it was getting fucked up," Carmilla said to him. "Oh shit," Trevor said to her. "How long do you think you've been gone?" he said to her. Carmilla was saying, then froze as she realized she died as she killed herself. "How the fuck am I? How long have I been dead?" she asked him in anger, the white part of her eyes turning red. 5 centuries and about a few decades, Trevor said simply. Carmilla looked shocked by that and simply went on a rage, wrecking the hallway. "Kid, this is what most women will do if they are involved in the same shit you do. When they get angry, they'll always fuck up your shit," Trevor said, as both he and Alucard learned that as their significant others always did that. Next day. "What?" Carmilla said in a less angry tone as she was in the dining room and saw Issei staring at her. Can you show me how to be a vampire?" Issei asked her simply. "You're a vampire," Carmilla said, raising an eyebrow as he seemed more human than even the rare half-breed Dampier vampires. "Who's your vampire parent?" she asked him. "Oh, one of my parents was a descendant of Alucard, son of Dracula," Issei said to her. Dracula. Carmilla thought as she had to remind herself that centuries went by and that meant he was a far distant descendant. He's not bad. She thought as he was kind and smart for a child his age and he did help her. I wonder. She thought as she had failed in her previous attempts to lead and take over, and thanks to Belmont she discovered that many things changed in her absence. Maybe I can child, she said to him. 1 hour later, faster, Carmilla said as she was making Isseiwas laps as combat training was already being done by Trevor. I still can't believe you are a fucking Belmont, she said as that was defiantly a shock. Believe it, Trevor said, calling out proudly. Carmilla rolled her eyes. Have you tried and figured out what supernatural forces are reigning supreme? She asked the spirit who just looked at her blankly. Fucking imbecile, she said to him. How many abilities does he possess as a vampire? She asked him. Speed of a regular vampire. Strength is about that of a full-grown man. He's durable, heals faster than human but not vampire speed. And no, he doesn't suck blood, Trevor said to her. Maybe we should get him some, Carmilla said with a grin. No, Trevor said with a glare. We both know if he feeds he'll be stronger, Carmilla said to him with her own glare. Dampier not raised with it can lose their senses and often become crazed. Trevor said as he had met Dampier in the past and saw them lose themselves from becoming addicted to bloodsucking as it was like a drug to them. The boy is of the strongest vampire bloodline, he can do it, Carmilla said confidently. Answer remains no, and last I checked you were drinking portions of his blood and I don't think you share the same courtesy, and last I checked I got no blood. Trevor said to her as she glared at him. Fine, we'll wait, Carmilla said to him, for now, she thought to herself. 1 month later, I swear as all you do is complain. Trevor asked as Carmilla was complaining that Issei should be stronger in magic. He's not even 12 yet bitch, and he's fine, almost burned down a room practicing fire magic, he said to her. And I've done my research. Belmont Traveler's new elemental magic, and you said he even manipulated fucking shadows, Carmilla said to him. So fucking train him, isn't that what your family was all about? She said to him. Or are you just stalling? She said with a smirk as Issei was leaving with her to discover the supernatural world pecking order. But Trevor said Issei needed to be more prepared, and she had to agree since Issei was a wildcard and someone she had grown to care for him, seeing as he was kind and had no other company. They often conversed, which was the start of their friendship. He started learning other elements. Calm down, Trevor said to her as Issei had a real aptitude for them and was currently learning ice magic. Fine, 1 damn month, jackass, Carmilla said to him, 1 week later. Have to admit he has class, Carmilla thought, seeing Issei train, seeing the grace he had either with his weapon, with magic, or just physical training. He had this grace to him. Issei's mind was distracted as he trained, as he felt like he was reaching something but always fell short of grasping it. Few weeks later, Issei was wearing a large jacket-like robe that was black and had the Belmont symbol on the back. It looked to be a combination of a regular jacket and robes. It consisted of a red undershirt, with the torso bearing an open collar, and the robes themselves being gray. There was also a gray shirt beneath his undershirt. The shoulders each displayed a cross containing triquetras. The upper body once again featured a shoulder belt which holstered a short sword at the back. The lower part of the robes featured a belt around the waist. Belmont, what the fuck, he looks like a fucking assassin, Carmilla said as she was in a less stylish dress than she preferred, but to Issei it drew in less attention, not a comforting thought given that he was a child. I know, congratulations Issei, Belmont said, laughing like it was an accomplishment. Fuck, I think even my asshole friend would like it, he said to him. Hide the weapons, Carmilla said to him, wanting to not draw attention. 2 hours later, Carmilla felt like slamming her head on the booth's table as she had to admit she hadn't expected it to be so hard to find out about the supernatural, as the world had truly advanced in her missing time and she was basically an idiot. You okay? Issei asked as he drank some water, keeping his hood on, trying not to be seen. As can be, Carmilla said to him as she felt pathetic as her only magical contact was him. Hey, do you see anything odd? Issei asked her curiously. We're in a pub, Carmilla said to him as if it was obvious. No, I mean we're the only ones here, Issei said to her. Carmilla froze as she noticed he was right, as even the bartender was gone and there was only one man there sitting at the bar. Hey you, she said, getting up, her eyes turning red. Who are you? She asked, not liking he was the only one here. Someone with answers and questions, the man said to her. He knows, Carmilla thought in slight fear at this unknown element. Hey kid, why don't you come over here, sit at the bar, I might pour you a drink, the man said to Issei as the boy walked over. "I'll have water thanks," Issei said as he sat at the bar stool. "You have questions and we want answers quid pro quo," he said to him. "Smart kid," the man said with a chuckle. "You can sit down, you know," he said to the woman as she looked ready to attack him. "Who the fuck are you?" Carmilla said to him in anger. "My name is Azazel and I'm a fallen angel," Azazel said to her and looked at Issei, who looked calm. "What, no surprise, come on, that's half the fun of first introductions," he said to him as Carmilla was now nervous and afraid. "I felt you were magic and thought you were honest, haven't lied or said anything I hate yet," Issei said as Trevor trained him and gave him some pointers for certain situations like this and how to act around the unknown. Smart reasoning," Azazel said to him, a little impressed. "Offer one hand but arm the other, impressive," he said to him. Carmilla momentarily looked away from Azazel and saw Issei's hand a little loose and saw there was a blade in his sleeve. "You have the right idea, question for a question," Azazel said to him. "You might want to sit down," Issei said to Carmilla. "You trust this man?" Carmilla asked him as if he were insane. "No, I trust we have his curiosity and he's not insane to make a scene in a public place," Issei said to her. "Fine then," Carmilla said as she sat down. "Tell me about the current system," she asked him simply. 1 hour later, Carmilla felt like she was having a headache given what she was told. "Now you kid," Azazel said, looking at the young boy, and was curious about him. Issei looked at him calmly but was a little nervous being the center of attention. Belmont," Azazel said to him, seeing his crest. "Issei Hyoudou," he said, knowing his full name as he did his research prior, as he had heard of a monster hunting boy and once caught a glimpse of him, and that was all he needed. "Sorry about your parents, kid," he said, knowing that was the day he entered Azazel's world. "It's Belmont now," Issei said to him as he changed his name legally, as he thought it'd be good to do the old family name proud, and Belmont told him if he did do this he'd get a reputation with certain enemies and the like. Azazel merely nodded as he saw Issei had considered the pros and cons of that decision. "Just so you are aware, there are many who still remember your name from all fractions," he said, as devils and yokai especially. "The church has screwed your family over, it's a dark spot in their history," he said, as the Vampire War incident of the 15th century also made people look poorly on the church for the corruption the church had and many other things, and their treatment on the Belmont family was seen as injustice, which it was to begin with. But it allowed the rogue vampires to rebuild their numbers in Transylvania and now claim it for the vampire faction to this very day. "The angels will try and keep the peace," he said, as with Issei being part vampire, the church may act on certain elements by either trying to kill or use him. "Told you, kid," Carmilla said, as that was thing with that name, as it was an incredible burden having a name so well known, especially to magical creatures. "So why help him fallen?" she asked curiously as she raised a brow. "Kid seemed interesting," Azazel said plainly. "Mind if I see your whip?" he asked Issei, who willingly handed it over easily. "Idiot," Carmilla said, as it was foolish to hand over your weapon to anyone. Not bad, consecrated and a soul of a vampire used to make this, and a sacrifice at that," Azazel said, inspecting the chained whip. "Seems like this weapon acts upon only your family blood, a bit of holy magic. I can see not a bad bit of alchemy here. Let me add something to this for you," he said, making a light spear, which made Carmilla jump in fear. "Here, try this out," he said, as the light from the spear dispersed on the chain. "Light from an angel makes hunting monster a little easier," he said to him. "All right, fallen angel, the fuck do you want?" Carmilla said, as her eyes turned red, but fell silent as she gulped in fear, feeling his power. Temper, little vampire," Azazel said to her, still having his humorous tone. "Here, so we can keep in contact," he said, tossing Issei a state-of-the-art mobile. "Thanks," Issei said to him as they took off, and the moment he stepped out the bar he smelt the thing all vampires crave, blood. "Idiot," Carmilla said as Issei ran off. "Either he's getting faster or I'm getting slower," she thought, watching him. Issei followed the scent and soon found what he was looking for, but not what he expected, a girl. He thought, seeing she had black cat ears and saw blood on her sides. A snack," Carmilla said, as this girl was bleeding and magical. The girl backed away in fear, seeing Carmilla's teeth. "No," Issei said to her with a glare. "Are you okay?" he said, approaching her slowly. "I'm fine," the girl said as she clutched her wounds. "She's bleeding out, let me have a taste before she goes stale," Carmilla said as she sounded like she was whining. "Listen, I know healing magic, okay?" Issei said as he got closer and saw the fear in her eyes and then her wounds. "I'm not gonna hurt you, I promise," he said, his eyes shining pure honesty. The girl let him approach and felt slightly better, feeling her wounds close a little. "You should stop healing her," a man on a rooftop said, having bat-like wings. "She killed our master, she is going to die no matter what," he said to him. "No," Issei said to the man, seeing the girl look at him in surprise. "Then this is," the man was saying before a chain wrapped around his neck. "Burn," Issei said as the part of the chain around the devil's neck ignited, burning he devil before Issei yanked on the chain, causing it to decapitate the devil. The devil's headless body stood there for a moment before it started to expand and bulge in various places, with each bulge glowing before the whole body exploded in a fiery explosion. "Thank you," the girl said in surprise. "Hi Issei Belmont," Issei said to her. "Kuroka," the girl said as she hugged him and cried. "Are you fucking calling him already?" Carmilla said as she saw Issei take out the mobile. Few minutes later, "These aren't wounds," Azazel said as he examined Kuroka back at the bar. "These are surgical wounds," he said, speaking from experience as he was obsessed with knowledge and learning and advancing, but there were lines not even his obsession would cross. "Will she be okay?" Issei asked, that being his main concern. "Yeah, she'll be fine," Azazel said as he approached Issei. "She is a wanted stray devil, you sure you want that kinda danger?" he said to him. "I'll help anyone who needs it," Issei said, his voice not wavering. Few months later, Carmilla was extremely mad as she learned the history of what happened after her death. Hearing that Lenore had died and that Striga and Marana had abandoned her when the battle had been happening. She hadn't found anything out after that, as they apparently went underground. "Fuck them," she said in anger. "Let me see if I have this right," she said as she read an old book. "A piece of the corpse," she said as she found a spell and was able to summon Lenore's ashes and had them in a pile. "Blood of the holy," she said as she beat a rogue fallen angel. "Bone of the kin," she said as she grabbed a vampire skull from downstairs. "And blood of a champion," she said as she held her portion of Issei's blood. "Doesn't get more champion than this, and he's a Belmont," she thought as they were warriors. Carmilla began enacting the spell, combining the elements she had gathered, a crimson light forming. With Issei was sleeping in his bed in peace until he was awoken and his eyes glowed green. "Hello," Issei said, calling out in an empty void. "The hell am I?" he asked himself, and soon stumbled as he tripped over a girl on the floor. "Oh my god, are you okay?" he asked her, shaking her. "Oh bloody hell," the girl said to herself. "Is this hell?" she asked, seeing a boy. "No," Issei said to her. "Hi, I'm Issei," he said politely. Lenore said to him. The two talked and discussed about one another, and soon a crimson and green light flooded the void. With Carmilla. "Fuck," Carmilla said in pain as her body became that of a 21-year-old and saw that Lenore was brought back, but she was of similar age to Issei. 1 hour later. "A fucking resurrection spell, what are you high? Those are meant for sacrifices," Trevor said to her in anger. "It was in the library," Carmilla said as she shrugged, not seeing the problem. "There is always a price of this kinda shit," Belmont said to her, looking over the ingredients she used. "Whose blood did you use?" he asked heatedly. Carmilla just remained silent. "Damn it, you fucking bitch, Issei," Trevor said as he ran to Issei's room. "Please don't be dead," Carmilla thought as she liked Issei and didn't want his death on her hands. Trevor was saying till he saw Issei was unconscious but saw a red gauntlet. "Is that?" Carmilla asked him in shock. "Yeah," Trevor said to her. Few minutes later. "Did your ancestors have a book for fucking everything?" Carmilla asked Trevor as she read a book on sacred gears and soon found the boosted gear 1 of the mid-tier 13 Longinus. The boosted gear gives the user little and subtle dragon-like qualities, however subtle, she said, reading the not known information as she knew about balance breaker and the boost abilities. "A Belmont dragon," Trevor said with a smile. "The dragon of Belmont," he said, trying out names. Carmilla rolled her eyes. "Fuck you two and be glad no one actually died. I'm surprised we got away with this much," Trevor said to her. "Oh please, what could have happened?" Carmilla asked offhandedly. "The dead can rise, angry spirits, and a bunch of other dumb shit," Trevor said as he had done enough of that shit. "Library." A book in the library glowed brightly and shook violently. "Wine cellar." A silver sword was vibrating inside the wine cellar. With Trevor. The fuck is that? Trevor said as there was an explosion on 2 locations in the castle. This better not be the fucking Dead Rising, he said to Carmilla. Few minutes later in the library. Oh fuck me, Trevor said in shock seeing his wife Sypha. Hello Trevor? Sypha said hugging him tightly. How is this possible? Trevor said with a smile. Wait. He said remembering something as he dashed to the wine cellar. Ah the traveler witch, Carmilla said to her, didn't you die? Sypha asked curiously. Carmilla shut up after that as she disliked the woman immediately. Wine cellar. Alucard looks around seeing himself in the wine cellar of the castle. Fucking Trevor. He says realizing that the Belmont had stored his sword in the Wince cellar of all places likely as a joke. Oh bloody hell you too, Trevor said as he made it to the cellar. I thought we left your soul here, why the fuck am I here? Alucard said in annoyance. It's a long story, Trevor said to him, few minutes later. Well I'll be damned, Alucard said seeing the unconscious Red Dragon Emperor. Even in death you're an imbecile, why the fuck is she here? He said in annoyance pointing to Carmilla. And what happened to him? He asked referring to Issei. Trevor explained how he met Issei and both the other adults tensed a little. Poor boy, Sypha said as she sat next to him running her hand through his hair comfortingly. The fuck has this world come to? Alucard said as he couldn't imagine what Issei went through that night. Belmont, this boy has been marked. He said to him simply, but for what time will tell, he said as he felt worried for his bloodline and the. Got that right, Trevor said to him. Wait, how are you touching him? He asked his wife seeing her touch Issei. Magic, Sypha said as she gained a hue. The spell you used drained the magic keeping Trevor here, and by my guess we have 4 years till we are put to rest, she said to Carmilla as she was guessing how much time they had. Can you make me solid? Trevor asked and soon his wish was granted. Where the bloody hell is the wine? He said as he ran out the room. Moron, Alucard said sending her a look, and she made him solid and he got close to Issei. Listen to me my boy, life will be hard. But you have potential to do good, a hero like me and Sypha and yes that other fucking imbecile, he said to Issei in a loving fatherly tone. God fucking damn it Sypha. Trevor's voice said ringing from somewhere else in the castle after finding out that while he can partially interact with the physical world now, Sypha had apparently left out the ability to interact with booze. You're still dead jackass, we don't eat, Alucard said to him. How'd you die? Carmilla asked Alucard curiously. I'll tell you, Trevor said in annoyance. This fucker choked on a fucking fishbone. He said laughing at Alucard and wasn't the only one. Oh this is the funniest thing I have ever heard. Alucard the son of the great Dracula Tepes died from a mere fishbone, how does that even kill a vampire? Carmilla says laughing her ass off. He panicked and ended up accidentally staking himself on the chair he broke while panicking, Trevor says with a grin resulting in Carmilla to laugh even hard, actually falling to the floor in laughter. I fucking hate you Belmont, Alucard said seething in anger. As funny as this is we need to speak, a deep powerful voice said to them as they looked at the gauntlet. The Red Dragon Emperor Y. Diedrich Gok, Trevor said in shock. Yes Belmont, your heir here is certainly interesting, Diedrich said with a chuckle. 1 month later, oh this is amazing, Kuroka said as she really liked the sage chakra she was feeling here in Kyoto. Good to see you enjoying yourself, Issei said with a smile. Oh Lord puppy love, Carmilla said to herself rolling her eyes. Oh shut up please, Sypha said in annoyance, finding the interactions between her descendant and the cat Yokai entertaining. Didn't the baby vamp want a piece of him? Trevor asked them getting dry looks from the vampires. He's certainly charming, I'll give him that, Lenore said as she liked being a child again, feeling at peace for once in her life, and Issei certainly was a charmer much like the hero in books she had read. Not to mention his body was pretty fit and toned and would likely only improve the more he changed. The thought of this made the resurrected vampire girl bite her lip in anticipation. Tepes charm, Alucard said to her with a chuckle. Please what charm? Carmilla said to him as she met both Tepes men and neither were very charming. Tepes men have always had charm, after all my father managed to charm the wildfire that was my mother. In fact I would be willing to wager that Issei could very well tame your own raging inferno Carmilla, Alucard says with a grin. As fucking if the day I fall for the child is the day I bend over and allow him to plow me like human whore in heat, Carmilla states with a scoff, finding the idea of her falling in love with a human, let alone a male human, utterly impossible. The group had spent time within Kyoto exploring, seeing the sights and many of the magical community. "Saifa, take a look at this," Trevor said to her as he found a small patch of dead flowers. "Dead flowers?" Saifa asked him curiously. "An omen," Alucard said to her. "Let's hope we're not the cause for once," he said in silent prayer. "That may be a bit impossible," Trevor said as he found another patch and soon saw a tree with claw marks and found a glowing blue nail inside of it. "We've seen this before," he said to Saifa. "You killed that demon," Saifa said to him. "Yet here we are and there she is," Trevor said looking at the revived vampire. "We need to fix this," Alucard said to them, as a night creature was not something that should be left alone. 6 hours later, no blood, Lenore said as she was smelling through the air and found nothing. "I got nothing," Kuroka said as she wasn't sensing anything. "This thing has to be here," Issei said. They followed the trail earlier and found it odd as it moved wildly even for a beast. "I'm honestly surprised it can even move," Lenore said, as this one had to belong to Hector or Isaac, both of which are extremely dead. "I don't know," Issei said to them, as this was weird. Kuroka and Lenore's senses went into overdrive as they smelt and felt blood and negative emotions. Few minutes later, "Is it wearing robes?" Issei said, seeing the Blue Fangs demon wearing a priestess outfit. "A night creature in clothes," Lenore said, as she had seen plenty of them and paint was one thing, but clothing to an untethered night creature made even less sense. "I am no mere night creature," Blue Fangs said to them. "My soul lay dormant for hundreds of years, and weeks ago I was awakened, my spirit building in strength till I could possess a yokai," he said with a smirk. "We gotta kill this thing," Lenore said to the others. "No," Issei said to them, "he's using a child like a coward," he said to them. "Correct, a little girl was all I could muster, the princess of the yokai," Blue Fang said to them. Issei put his weapons away. "Submission, oh so early," Blue Fang said to him. "No strategy," Issei said as he grabbed a flask, opening it up. "Holy water," Kuroka said in slight fear. "Please, you wouldn't risk harming," Blue Fangs was saying before Issei tackled him. "I'm gonna kill you," Issei said as he dodged his fangs as he tried to bite him. "Die," Blue Fangs said as he wanted to kill Issei. Issei grabbed the flask and punched through the creature's teeth, shattering them, his arm deep inside the creature's mouth, the flask of holy water in his hand, shoving the holy water down the creature's throat. "Choke on it," he said as the creature roared as it started to choke and burned as black smoke came off it. "The hell did you get holy water?" Kuroka asked him as she helped him up. "A church," Issei said to her simply, as that was as simple as it got. "Enjoy your nightmare, bitch, hope you burn," he said as the creature soon disappeared and in its place was a little fox yokai girl. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around the girl. "Let's return her," Kuroka said, as she and Issei were probably best suited to go, as she was still a yokai and Issei was unaligned human, so he had special perks. Later with Lenore. "I can't fucking believe you," Carmilla said, drinking a combination of wine and Issei's blood. "Another puppy," she said, rolling her eyes. "I think devilish rogue wolf is more on point," Lenore said to her. "Why do you care? You hate all men except him," she said to her. "You like him," she said with a smirk. "Too bad I am much closer to his age range." Carmilla narrowed her eyes hearing this. "Careful, child, remember who the stronger of us is. Furthermore, I could charm him and have him so tightly wrapped around my finger it would cut off the circulation if I so chose to," the elder vampiress says with a scowl. "The hell you could, you have no experience with men," Lenore said. She had much more skills in that department. "Oh, and I suppose you have vast experience given that little plaything Hector you kept around. Be honest, he wasn't very good and you were just putting on an act," Carmilla counters with a smirk when she sees Lenore's eyes widen. "Hector was not what I expect, but I don't like him nor do I hate him, and yeah, he wasn't that great in bed," Lenore said as she had mixed feelings before she died. "But Issei is the perfect man, but you knew that already since you can't seem to get enough of his blood, not to mention how you react to it," she said, knowing that Issei's blood was now her favorite vintage. Carmilla flushes slightly at this, given it was true. Issei's blood was like none she ever tasted before, and every sip sent shivers down her spine and euphoria over her taste buds. The female vampire was ashamed to admit it, but she had ruined more than one pair of undergarments from drinking his blood. And more than one pair of sheets when she tried using it for other uses. Few years later, home. Issei said, stepping into his home for the first time in years now, the age of 16, almost 17. "How are you?" Lenore asked him, concerned, as this was his home and where his parents died, something she could relate to. She had regained her beauty, but her body certainly developed better than she had before. She had large cup breasts, slim curvy body, and a nice firm heart-shaped ass. "Okay, I guess," Issei said to her as he calmed himself. "Still can't believe you bought the whole block," Lenore said, as Issei was intending to make the castle be here in Kuo, and he even found a spell to reformat it. "Hey, needed space, the spell reforms the castle," Issei said to her as he made the nearby houses disappear and made the castle appear here and soon cast the spell. P.S. The castle will look like the mansion Rias had made when she remodeled Issei's house. "About fucking time," Carmilla said as she looked bored. She had F-cup breasts, curvy but well-built body, and a round supple ass. "Why are you such a pain in the ass?" Kuroka asked her flatly. She had developed quite nicely, having low K-cup breasts, an exotic and curvy body, and a bubbly ass. "Piss of cat," Carmilla said as she never liked Kuroka. "Kuroka, we gotta go, that favor I called in finally came through," Issei said to her. "The hell is he talking about?" Lenore asked Carmilla curiously, but all her friend could do was shrug. "Hell. I swear I never thought I'd come back here," Kuroka said to herself. "Not what I expected, honestly think I'm the first Belmont in hell," Issei said to her as they soon saw Azazel. "Hey kiddos," Azazel said to them as he waited for them. "Thanks for doing this, Azazel," Issei said to him. Not an issue," Azazel said to him offhandedly. The three were soon enveloped in a magic circle and soon were brought into an office, seeing a well-dressed man with a shoulder-like robe. "Hey Sirzex," Azazel said to him. "Hello Azazel, Kuroka," Sirzex said as he sent them respective nods, then looked at Issei. "And you are?" he asked curiously. "Issei Belmont, the Red Dragon Emperor," Issei said to him, seeing his eyes widen in surprise. "Rather interesting company you keep, Azazel," Sirzex said to the fallen general. "We're cool, but I am not aligned to anyone in particular," Issei said to him. "I noticed you moved in on my town," he said as he sensed devils in his area. "Yes, I am sure there aren't any issues," Sirzex said as the Gremory claimed the territory of Kuo, but certain disputes could happen as there were a few ins and outs and, who was there first, kinda problems. "None on my part," Issei said to him, "but I would very much like for you to take a look at this," he said as Azazel handed Sirzex a folder. "You may wanna call Ajuka," Azazel said to him simply. 1 hour later, her pieces were tampered with, Ajuka Beelzebub said in annoyance. "If I remember correctly, there are restrictions with tampering with evil pieces," Issei said as he read up on devil laws. "He's right, Sirzex, I had you implicated as it was in the prototype stages even now," Ajuka said as he updated and fixed up his evil pieces on occasion. "And Kuroka's pieces were tampered with by her former master. I feel that him performing surgeries on his peerage," Issei said, showing him the pictures of the cuts they took then. "Sir, she's a yokai and I happen to be very close with the yokai leader Yasaka. I saved her daughter with the aid of my friends, and I feel the yokai would not be open to negotiations if they learned one of their own, a hero at that, was experimented on. We feel you should undo her fugitive status," he said to Sirzex. Sirzex nodded as the boy made an extremely compelling case as the yokai and devils were on friendly terms. "I will, but I have a request," he asked Issei. "Sure, shoot," Issei said to him, and as soon as he said that, he was handed a brochure. Kuo Academy. He said to him, "I'll agree to go if you enroll Kuroka, her maiden name Tojo," he said as everyone caught on and smiled, especially Kuroka, who had tears in her eyes, and Lenore, her maiden name Styria. He said to him simply. "Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Belmont," Sirzex said as it certainly was a interesting meeting. "Likewise," Issei said with a smile on his face. Few weeks later. "Oh fuck my life," Issei said as he heard his alarm. I should have stuck to home schooling," he thought, going downstairs, seeing Kuroka up and happy in her school uniform. I am a vampire and can walk in the sun, but I still hate mornings," Lenore said to them. "Well, go back to sleep, Bat," Kuroka said with an innocent smile that was anything but. "That's rich coming from you. You lazy bad luck omen," Lenore said to her, returning the smile. Issei made a cup of coffee, ignoring them as this was normal. "I swear I need something to do," Carmilla said as she was gonna be bored. "Well, my ancestors are gone," Issei said as he trained with them vividly before they eventually parted from this world for good and learned a lot and even trained with Diedrich. And I am surrounded by children, Carmilla said to herself. Least I am decent company, Issei said to her. Yes, my very own friend that serves as my food and eye candy, Carmilla said, winking at Issei. Paws off, bitch, Lenore and Kuroka said in unison before glaring at each other. 30 minutes later, Issei took a moment to walk around and heard mummers and whispers. Look at those muscles, great, another pretty boy. He is so cute, damn jackass, look at that butt. Forget the butt, is that his package? Issei chuckled at that as he heard many females gush and many guys growl in both anger and jealousy, and soon someone bumped into him and he came face to face with a woman with beautiful crimson red hair. Sorry about that, the redhead said to him. She had K-cup breasts, a nice curvy body, and a firm round ass. It's fine, I wasn't paying attention anyway, Issei said, helping her up. Hi, name's Issei, he said, holding his hand. Rias said to him with a bright smile. Well, Rias, it was nice to meet you, but I gotta go, Issei said as he walked away. Rias stood there and watched him walk away. Rias? A girl asked in a confused tone. She had large K-cup breasts, a sexy slim and curvy body, and an ample bubbly ass. Oh hey Akeno, Rias said with a surprised look. Oh, we're gonna be late for class, she said, evading the coming question her friend would ask. Few minutes later. Class, we have a new arrival to our class, please welcome Kuroka Tojo, the teacher said, introducing Kuroka. Rias and Akeno were shocked by this, knowing the history with this particular devil, and had to act calmly and not make a scene. With Issei. Please give a warm welcome to Issei Belmont and Lenore Styria, the teacher said to the class. Devil, Issei thought, seeing the blonde-haired teen, and went and sat next to him. Hi Issei, he said politely. Kiba Yuto, Kiba said politely. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Belmont, he said with a smile. Word of advice, that smile a little misleading, Issei said in a little whisper. Kiba went silent as they just focused on the glass. You and Kuroka just have to play with fire, Lenore said to him simply, as she could tell today was gonna end badly. Few hours later. Hey Sharon, or should I call you Kaneko, Kuroka said as she found her sister and cornered her. Kuroka, Kaneko said in fear. With Issei. Sorry, no, Issei said as he was a good distance from Kuroka and her sister, as he was blocking the oncoming group of Rias Gremari's peerage. Issei, Rias said in surprise. I knew it wasn't a coincidence, Kiba said to himself. Belmont unfairly excommunicated from the church, he said in an informative tone. Smart, give him that much, but I'm like a whole bunch of other shit, Issei said, standing his ground. Issei Belmont, I am the last son of Belmont, bloodline of Alucard, son of Vlad Dracula Tepes, descendant of the Traveler magic line, and this generation Red Dragon Emperor, he said, unleashing a wave of power. Why not make a call to your brother? I'm sure this is his kind of idea of a joke, he said to them. Rias made a call and soon nodded to her peerage. My apologies Issei, I was unaware of your status and that Kuroka had been cleared, she said in a polite diplomatic tone. Forget it, let the sisters have their moment, Issei said to them, letting them know this wasn't a request. 1 hour later. Not a fucking chance, Issei said to Rias as she wanted him to report to her, as this was her territory. I have lived here longer than you, and you've been here since the summer before the year started, he said to her simply. Perhaps we can come to an agreement, Rias said to him with a smile. You literally have nothing I want, Issei said to her. Really, I noticed Kuroka still has her evil pieces, and Ms. Styria is a vampire. You may have long lifespan by a few decades compared to other humans, but nothing like that of a devil, Rias said to him. Issei thought about it for a moment, as being human still sucked royally at times, and having Kuroka heal him when the training or the battles got rough or too much. I want you to know I am keeping my castle and everything in it, and I'll kill stray devils and monsters whenever, he said to her. Rias had to admit that deal was as good as it could have gotten, as she knew her history about that time period and knew how special Dracula's castle was, and killing stray devils and monsters was basically what a devil had to do in their territory. She took out a box with her evil pieces. Also, the others are off the table, Issei said to her. I mean, Kuroka is already off, he said, seeing Rias had only 1 bishop in that box, meaning she used it on someone, and Kuroka was worth 2 bishops. And Lenore is off already, he said to her with a look. Rias had to admit Issei being who he was made it so she had limited options with the other girls, but still accepted nonetheless. Mutated pawn. Issei thought, seeing her take out 8 pawns and saw one glowed differently from the rest. He held the pawns and Rias recited the chant, and when the pawns entered his body, "What the hell," he thought as he felt his fangs sharpen, his hair darkening slightly, his brown eyes becoming honey brown, and his muscles becoming more defined. "And love it," Kuroka said as her tail came out and started wagging. "You feel more like a vampire," Lenore said as Issei looked human still, or rather evil pieces must have increased the power in your vampire heritage, she said as his eyes looked more like Alucard's and his hair was still like Belmont's, but it was darker, almost like Dracula's. "I still feel the same," Issei said, not really caring. "Anyway, I gotta go. Anything I should know?" he asked Rias curiously. "Just that you're now a part of the club and we have meetings at the end of the day," Rias said as they enchanted contact information. 1 hour later, gone one day and you have a makeover. Fantastic, Carmilla said, approving of his new features. "Shut up," Issei said as he brought her and the others their dinner as he was the only cook. "You look like a real vampire at least. Though I still say you need a cape. Every self-respecting vampire of note needs a cape," Carmilla said to him as in her mind a real vampire man wasn't complete without a cape. And she didn't count his cloak as a cape. Issei rolled his eyes as Carmilla, while a friend had tried to teach him to the best of her ability, so he was ready for politics and other things of that nature. Though her fixation on him getting an actual cape was rather annoying. Later with Kuroka, Kuroka lied in her bed thinking about Issei, her mind drifting back. Flashback. "Are you alright, child?" Saifa asked Kuroka as she was in the library all alone sitting on a bookshelf. Kuroka didn't answer her, burying her head like a cat would do. Saifa climbed up and sat next to her. "You know, there was a time when I felt like you do now," she said to the catgirl. "And how do I feel?" Kuroka asked her skeptically. "Alone." Saifa said to her simply, "There are people here who care about you, like a certain boy," she said hintingly. "He's fine," Kuroka said with a blush. "Oh, and the fact that he pisses off his grandfather by stopping training early to come see you," Saifa said with a smile as Issei was always checking in on Kuroka, making sure she was fine, something she couldn't blame him for given what the cat Yokai went through. Kuroka smiled at that as Issei did a lot to make her feel better, and it meant a lot to her, and she could honestly say it was the reason why she trusted him so much. He was so honest and kind, she couldn't help herself but to like him. "Kuroka," Issei said, calling out, "Your girlfriend is over here," Saifa said loudly as she smiled at Kuroka, who was giving her a dirty look. Flashback end. Kuroka smiled on that memory and all the kindness and love and friendship that followed as she knew what Issei was to her. With Lenore smiled as she looked into her mirror as she brushed her hair, her mind drifting as it often did when she was busy. Flashback. "Touch her and you're dead," Issei said with both the Morning Star and his whip. Lenore felt like an idiot as she was curious about the current vampire hierarchy, and they had come to Romania to see them, and despite their carefulness, they were discovered, and many vampires wanted them for various reasons. As she was a pureblood vampire, the vampires wanted another bloodline, and the fact that Issei was of Dracula's line made them either want to eat him for strength, have him mate with the females to have more powerful lines, or just kill him for his impurity. "I swear I hate these guys," Issei said to Lenore, whipping one vampire across his eyes, seeing the two spheres enlarge before the vampire's head burst open. "That was disgusting," Lenore said as she had a bit of brain on her heel. In that moment of distraction she was grabbed from behind. "Issei," she said, trying to keep the vampire from biting her. "Okay, enough of this shit," Issei said, using the Morning Star to wrap the chain around the vampire's neck. "Let her go or you burn," he said as the vampire hissed as the chain started to glow red, and as soon as he let go he fell on the ground choking to death as the superheated chain had seared his windpipe shut. "Lenore, get down," he said in anger as the Morning Star ignited and he started to spin it around, slicing through and burning the other vampires. 1 hour later. "That was dumb," Lenore said, sitting next to Issei in a random part of the hallway, both covered in ash. "Hey, you reached out, that's never bad," Issei said with a smile. "But you almost died," Lenore said to him, "and so did you," Issei said to her. "Your life is just as important as mine," he said to her, holding her close. Lenore was silent, as with Carmilla she felt valued, but when she wasn't needed she felt worthless and unnecessary. With Issei she never felt that, and for the first time she felt like actually living for once. "He's right, you know," Alucard said, surprising them. "No one's life is more valuable than others," he said, sounding proud of Issei's logic and morals. Thanks, Lenore said in gratitude. Both men nodded their heads at her with a smile. You're a friend, Lenore, always and forever, Issei said as she chuckled and teared up a little. Flashback end. Lenore smiled at the memory and the days that followed. Lemon warning. Later that day, Lenore was in her room looking at her full-length mirror, seeing herself in a matching black bra and panty combo, wearing black garter belt with mesh stockings, and black sexy stiletto heels. Tonight is the night, she thought to herself. With Kuroka struck some poses in her mirror, seeing her naked body. The only clothing she had was a red collar with a small ID tag that said, "Property of Issei Belmont, you're mine Issei," she thought to herself. Few minutes later, "What are you doing here?" Kuroka and Lenore said as they whispered at each other in anger as they went into Issei's room and saw the other, and luckily Issei was in his shower. "Listen, Stray, I am here to give myself to a real fucking man," Lenore said as she wanted Issei badly. "Fuck off, blood addict, maybe I'll let you suck him off after I'm done sucking is the only thing your kind is good at," Kuroka said to her as they glared at each other. Both women were so caught up they didn't hear Issei finish his shower and soon walk out seeing the women in their glory, and immediately had a reaction as he gained an immediate erection. Both women stopped their fighting as soon became aware of Issei's presence and soon saw his erection and blushed and looked at him in hunger. "I'm gonna guess by your attire or lack thereof you both wanna have sex," Issei said, his Belmont wit with his Tepes class shining through. Both girls nodded, not denying that at all. "Can I just say that is rather impressive, and it is criminal that you are hiding it," Lenore said as they got closer and slowly undid his towel. "What else is he? No way this is normal." Both women thought, especially Lenore, as Issei's dick was about 14 inches long and 3 inches wide. Lenore looked up to see the look in his eyes and recognized that look well, as it was a look vampires and animals gained when they had their eyes locked on one thing. Prey were his prey. She thought, getting excited from the prospect as she saw what the evil pieces did to him as they increased his vampire abilities past what they were before, as he was now more like Alucard in that regard. "On the bed, Kuroka," she said to the feline, knowing that Issei was going to ravage her and Kuroka, as he was a stamina freak before the evil pieces, possibly even more so now. Kuroka had to agree as she could practically feel his lust burning off of him. They both got on the bed and looked at Issei. "Take it off," Issei said to Lenore, and not getting a response as she was in a daze, he got impatient and ripped it off, making Lenore moan in surprise. "I have had it with you two, always fighting." Lenore get on top of Kuroka, Issei said as his tone of voice made it sound like there was no room for argument. Lenore did as instructed and got on top of Kuroka, their tits mashed together as they looked each other in the eye. "Your breath smells like fish," she said to her. "Better than smelling like blood," Kuroka said, as even she knew these were weak insults, as they were both horny and excited and afraid for when Issei would start. Issei, having enough of them bickering, gives each of them a spank. "If you both don't behave, I won't fuck either of you," he said to them. They both became quiet as they very much wanted Issei inside them, as they felt him rub the tip against their slits. Issei then gets an idea. "Kiss and make up," he said in a dominating tone. Both women felt a little turned on by that command, and especially when Issei leaned forward, pressing his tip even more against their slits. They did as instructed and slowly began to kiss, and they soon got into it, and before either of them realized, Issei used his incredible speed and began to fuck them mercilessly. Lenore moaned in surprise as she felt Issei grab her and lifted her up, thrusting deeper into her. Kuroka felt left out and was very horny and began joining Issei, playing with Lenore as the Catwoman licked her clit as Issei thrusted into her pussy. Issei wanted more as he kissed Lenore's neck, hearing her screaming moans, but craved and wanted more. He unknowingly bit her neck, not strong enough to draw blood, but it was still a little rough. Lenore roared in pleasure, feeling Issei bite her, spraying Kuroka with her juices, causing the cat Yokai's nose to twitch back and forth cutely. Kuroka watched as Issei put Lenore on the bed and saw him look at her and pull her into a kiss. God, she thought, not caring about the momentary headache she got, as the pleasure was much more than the pain she felt. "I'll wear this collar forever if you want me to," she said, as the idea of her being known as his pet made her inner walls clench. "We'll talk more later, but right now I want you on all fours," Issei said to her, seeing her get on all fours and that her tail was wagging in excitement. Kuroka moaned as Issei grabbed her tail in a gentle and firm way and lightly tug at it, making her moan out as Issei thrusted inside of her, making her moan. "Give me kitties, Issei, I want a lot of them, I'm not gonna stop fucking you till I get them," she said as she wanted kittens to restore the nekosho, and she would drain Issei's balls daily if she had to in order to get her kittens. "You definitely are a kinky little kitty," Issei said to her, nipping on her cat ears, teasingly making her scream in pleasure, and her walls tighten around him like a vice as her orgasm ripped through her. Issei looked at both women panting, and both women looked at him and saw he wasn't even tired, causing them to shiver in both anticipation and slight fear, which heightened their arousal. Next morning, Issei woke up the next morning seeing both the women he bedded very unconscious and tired, covered in each other's sexual juices. He left to go to the kitchen and saw Carmilla waiting patiently for breakfast at the kitchen table. "I see you had a rough night," Carmilla commented with a glare. "Yep," Issei said as he cooked and readied a glass of his blood for her. "Amateur, you dealt with little girls, not a real woman," Carmilla said with a smirk. "Get on the table," Issei said to her in a commanding tone. "What?" Carmilla said with a look of surprise, as she had to admit she did not expect that response. "I'm still horny, and you said I haven't dealt with a real woman, show me," Issei said with a stern, powerful and dominant look. "Why, you impudent little shit. If you fail to meet my expectations and satisfy me, then you will give me 3 full bottles of your blood," Carmilla said to him with a serious look. "Done," Issei said, walking up to her and ripped off her red dress, leaving her in very revealing red panties and bra. "You're lucky I didn't like that dress," Carmilla said as she kissed him and moaned as she felt his fingers in her panties. "You know I always liked that you wore red," Issei said, kissing her neck. "It's like you were mine already," he said to her, using his other hand to massage her breast. Many men have tried. What makes you think you'll be the one to tame me?" Carmilla asked him with a serious look but a noticeable flush on her face. "Because, you know I would rule you," Issei said to her, as he knew that Carmilla always saw herself as a queen and hated particular men. "All except him. You want me to be your king, and who knows, maybe when I become a high-ranking devil and get my evil pieces, I'll let you join, maybe as my queen or maybe as a low-ranking piece," he said, seeing her glare at him. "Bastard, you'd be lucky to have me as your queen," Carmilla said before moaning loudly as Issei increased his fingering speed. "And you're lucky that I kept you," Issei said to her. "You are basically my pet, more than Kuroka ever was," he said, cutting his finger. "You are addicted to me, I know what my blood does to you," he said with a smirk, seeing her eyes widen in shock. Carmilla panted, seeing his blood, and thought back to each and every night ever since the first day she drank it. His blood had an almost aphrodisiac-like effect on her, resulting in many long nights where she masturbated furiously, her juices often staining her bedsheets, and did for hours on end. The vampiress couldn't resist and licked his blood off his finger, the taste sending waves of pleasure through her and wetting her honeypot. "You're soaked," Issei said as he pulled down her soaked panties. Carmilla just blushed and panted and moaned as Issei ripped off her bra, freeing her tits. "These are mine now, hell, I might just frame these," Issei said, teasingly, holding up her bra and panties. "Now slut, I want you to beg," he said to her teasingly. Carmilla felt angry and horny as she was being teased and played with by Issei. His blood made her pussy gush out juices. "Fuck me, damn it, you made your fucking point," she said to him, sucking up her pride. "Never have I felt pleasure like this. I have fucked multiple partners occasionally at the same time, and none of them have come even close to what you made me feel," she said as it was the absolute truth. "I want you to ruin my pussy and start feeding me your seed, make me drink it more than your blood," she said with a desperate look of lust. "Done," Issei said as he pulled her into a kiss and thrust it inside her, making her let out a loud moan into the kiss as his cock spread her walls wide as it reached to her cervix in a single thrust. "He's so deep," Carmilla thought as she felt him repeatedly hit the deepest parts of her and breached her womb, and her womb was eager to greet his shaft. "I am gonna eat here every day," she thought, wanting to eat at the very spot Issei fucked her and made her his. She rocked her hips as she let out a fierce orgasm and felt a second one the moment she felt his dick fill her pussy, as her pussy sprayed and dripped and moaned in displeasure as he pulled out of her and his cum gushed out of her. Issei grabbed her by her hips and flipped her over, getting her on all fours on the table, and spanked her ass and played with her cheeks. Carmilla moaned as Issei played with her ass and moaned in surprise as she felt 2 fingers enter her ass. She panted, feeling Issei's weight on her back, and felt his hot breath on her ear. "I claimed your pussy, now I want your ass," Issei said as his dick poked the entrance of her back door. Carmilla moaned in nervousness as her ass had never been breached by anything until Issei's fingers, and now he intended to fuck her with his large member. He's gonna destroy me, she thought in fear, which made her pussy even more horny as it dripped in excitement. She screamed as tears left her eyes as she felt her insides get rearranged to fit his member. Damn, you have got a tight ass, Issei said with a groan, feeling the vice-like grip of Carmilla's ass around his cock as he started working it in and out of her. The impacts of her thrusts caused her ass cheeks to ripple as he went balls deep each time. Seeing the bubbly cheeks of the vampiress jiggle only motivated Issei to thrust harder and faster, resulting in more moans from her. Reaching out, Issei grabbed a hold of Carmilla's long white hair and wrapped it around his wrist before yanking backwards, causing her to bend back towards him as he ravaged her ass. His other hand he brought down onto her cheeks, spanking them repeatedly as his onslaught of thrusts continued. Carmilla's world was one of nothing but mind-numbing pleasure as Issei continued his assault. Her large tits flopping in the air with each throats, her eyes nearly crossed and her tongue hanging out of her mouth in a fuck stupid expression as she moaned wantonly from his savagery. Few hours later, Carmilla moaned loudly as she sat on Issei's lap, her legs spread apart as she sat in his lap, her pussy currently being stuffed by his member as her ass leaked his seed. "Can I ask you something?" Issei asked her curiously as he kneaded her ass. "Anything," Carmilla said, giving him a very loving and erotic kiss as she rocked her hips up and down on his dick, feeling the cum he had already deposited in her womb slosh around with each movement. "I made this, Kuroka and Lenore each have one. Now I want you to have one," Issei said, showing her a red ring with green emeralds on it with a golden inside. "I made it with a bit of vampire magic, however it's not a death sentence loyalty ring," he said to her, seeing her look of concern. "Think of it like a promise ring," he said to her with a smile. "Yes, fuck yes, I want it, please give it to me," Carmilla said as she became very desperate for it. She practically had an orgasm when Issei slid it on her finger, and the moment she did she moaned in pleasure as she felt many things like his love, lust, happiness, and joy for her. "I love you," she said, kissing him again as she didn't need an answer as she felt his love through the ring. Lemon end. 1 hour later, it's almost noon, Rias said outside his house impatiently. "And it is also Saturday," Issei said to her simply. "Also nice attempt breaking in last night," he said as he felt a magical signature try to break past the wards and magical inscriptions to the castle. "I like to check on my servants," Rias said to him. "The magical circle tried to enter my bedroom," Issei said to her as that was an invasion of privacy. His smile faltered slightly as she glared at him. Okay, I'll alter the wards so you can come inside," he said to her simply. Rias smiled at that. "Cool, mind if I start a few jobs?" Issei asked, wanting to get this over with so he knew what to do and expect. Rias nodded as the peerage could take as many jobs as they liked, and she gave Issei Kiba's current jobs as being the only other male they may be able to complete the jobs. 30 minutes later, "Can I sue?" Issei asked Rias. "You've been gone a half hour, what happened?" Rias asked him, raising an eyebrow. "I don't know what Kiba is into or where the fuck he had been, but I have been mostly asked for sex," Issei said to her with a deadpan expression. Rias laughed as she heard that, as Kiba did get sexual requests a lot. "I won't count those as failures. Why do you still have popular reviews?" she asked as she read the commentary. "Listen, I am not a prostitute, but I am good company," Issei said to her. Rias had to admit, despite the incomplete status, he was getting good feedback. "I swear, next request, if it is sexual I will be pissed," Issei said in anger before leaving to do another job. Rias had to admit those jobs were in popular demand and rarely accepted and not viewed as failures or even counted when declined. Few minutes later, "Wow, this got weird fast, but it's not sexual," Issei said as he was in a room with men dressed as magic girls. 2 hours later, another one, Rias asked, raising a brow, wondering what it took so long. "I don't even know at this point," Issei said in pure honesty given the absurdity that he just went through. 6 hours later, "Well, at least you got a few jobs," Rias said to him simply as he had done a lot of stuff in the past few hours, 20 complete jobs. "The rest of the peerage doesn't do that much in a week," she said as Akano had usually 18 or 19 in a week. It was impressive Issei had some initiative or at least tried to do more work on the weekends. "Okay, I'm done for the day, wanna grab dinner?" Issei asked her. Rias would have answered if her stomach didn't growl, making her blush in embarrassment. "Let's go," Issei said to her. 30 minutes later, I thought vampires hated garlic. Rias asked as they were at an Italian restaurant. That's for those vampires in Transylvania. My bloodline was a more diverse and I don't have that, Issei said to her, as no vampire from Dracula's line had any problems with garlic. Good to know, Rias said to herself. Okay, spill what's on your mind, Issei asked her curiously. We are going to hunt a stray devil tonight and I thought you could join us, Rias said to her. You want me to handle it or do you want me to let the others handle it? Issei asked her curiously. Let me show you what the others can do, Rias said with a smile on her face. Issei felt there was a lot more to this. 1 hour later, Issei watched the combatants fight the rogue devil and had to save Rias from the last hit of the barely alive devil. We need to talk, he said to her simply. 10 minutes later, you have only fought strays, haven't you? Issei asked her simply. Yes, Rias said to him, unable to deny that. All of you are amateurs, Issei said to her flatly. Excuse me, Rias said, her temper rising slightly, and she gained a red hue on her cheeks, and Issei did his own, both starling down the others. I watched all of you fight and see numbers of flaws, Issei said to her. I have fought monsters and stray devils. You want an actual and professional opinion on how your peerage fought, he said to her as he calmed his aura when she did. And what is your observation? Rias asked in a more calm manner. Kiba is fast, and while skilled with a blade he had no real strength to his blows and his stamina is low. And has no protection, Issei said to her simply as he analyzed all of them. Kaneko, while skilled, didn't react as well as she could have. She's a nekosho and has denied herself of her heritage for a long time, which is basically becoming anorexic for their kind. From what her sister told me, a huge disadvantage to say the least. She's slow and has no defensive skill. She can't take all the hits, he said as Kuroka was trying to reach out to her sister, trying to get her back in touch with her roots. Akeno doesn't use the attributes of a queen. She's basically a real powerful bishop. She flies and uses magic that is it, and from what I can tell, a popular trend. She can run as fast as a knight, has strength and defense of a rook, and has the increased magical powers of a bishop, he said to her, and you have zero combat reactive instincts. You may have powerful magic, but you need to learn how to fight before actually entering it yourself, he said to her. Rias was shocked, as this was a true in-depth analysis, was something Sona would be jealous of, as the detail was amazing as he broke down their skills and weaknesses so easily from one battle with a stray. Any suggestions? She asked, paying close attention. Your knight doesn't have magic past his sacred gear and needs stamina and like actual defensive capabilities. Kaneko is training with her sister, so maybe she can do something there, maybe actually get back her cat-like qualities. Akeno needs to start using her magic in more physical combative ways, Issei said, igniting his hands as a demonstration. Tell her not to rely on her wings so much. Clear sky and the only thing in the sky. It'd be better for her to fight on the ground, he said to her. Any advice for me? Rias asked him, as she had to admit he was a great strategist with those observations. You are a magic caster relying on one magic, Issei said to her simply. Your power of destruction is powerful magic that I won't deny. But there are ways around it, he said as he gave her a small stone and a piece of wood. Say your power breaks down everything a certain way. You break down the wood faster than you would the stone, he said as she followed his hypothesis. Think about that with everything you try to use your magic on. Maybe there is a magic that could work better. Maybe your magic is nothing to another or a certain person. It's good to have options and to learn and get a feel for combat. You are a leader and also fight with us, so learn how to fight, he said to her simply. Rias was in awe and a little shocked how Issei literally turned her world upside down in mere minutes. Wait, what are your weaknesses? She asked him curiously. Nothing I can change, Issei said with a chuckle. I'm partial to dragon-slaying weapons, he said as Diedrig's aura made him essentially a dragon. It'd be more if he traded certain parts with him. I have a certain affinity with holy weapons, he said as his weapons didn't burn or hurt him at all, and even the weapons from exorcists he collected did nothing after his devil transformation. Rias' eyes widened in shock hearing that, as that was a game-changer. No vampire weaknesses, and I'm well versed in combat and, as you've noted, a decent strategist, Issei said to her simply. Could you beat me in a fight? Rias asked him, as Akeno was her equal. That much she knew, but she wondered how Issei stacked against her. Oh, definitely. How is the question, Issei said to her simply. And how would you do it? Rias asked him, wondering just how he'd defeat her. She was surprised when a chain wrapped around her hips, and she knew in that moment it was a holy weapon. She was surprised it didn't burn. This weapon works on devils and everything unholy. It'll explode weaker opponents in a single hit from the flail. It won't for you though, but like all holy weapons it'd burn. Issei said to her, "My reflexes are fast and I could kill you vampire style," he said, flashing his fangs suggestively. "Or I could use my sacred gear, increasing my incredible physical or magical abilities, or use the sacred gear itself again to kill you in multiple ways," he said to her. Rias was once again in shock at how well he did that. "Here for training if you want it," Issei said with a short chuckle as he walked away. Ch1 of 2 next.